Hi BookTube, here I am today to do the classics book tag. This has been on BookTube for ages, but obviously as I'm new to BookTube I've got a fair bit of catching up to do, and I do enjoy reading the classics, and so I thought I'd give it a go. So the first question is, let me read my notebook, an overhyped classic that you didn't like. I actually got two because there was two that I just couldn't decide between. The first one is Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. I found it quite offensive actually. It's supposed to be funny, but there's a point in the book where there's a body floating down the river and it's just a laugh and they do nothing about it, and yeah, it's dated, it's of its time, didn't find it funny at all, found all the characters in it really annoying, quite misogynist. Yeah, wasn't for me. It's going to the recycling bucket. And another one is John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. This is the stalwart classic of English GCSE. It's a small book. I only read this as an adult. We didn't read this when I was at school. I sort of read this as my children were doing it for the GCSE, so I could read along with them. I just found it. I got it. I got the messages that he was trying to get across. I understood it. I just found it, again, I need a book where I can engage with the characters and feel for them and have some empathy for them, and the only one I kind of felt for was Curly's wife, but even she was vile, so nah, didn't like it. It's not going to be one I'm going to reread. The next question is favourite time period to read about. I'd say anything 18th, 19th century, definitely Victorian era. I love all the Sherlock Holmeses, I love all the Brontes, the Jane Austens, those kind of things. I love all the Dickens stories that are set in that dark gothic kind of time period. I really like that. I'm fascinated by the Victorian period of history because it was such a time of social change and reform and the Industrial Revolution, so there was so much going on and a time of absolutely amazing writing. So yeah, I really love that time period. You know, there's Elizabeth Gaskell's of the world that wrote then, so yeah, I love that time period. The third question is my favourite classic fairy tale. I grew up on fairy tales. I grew up in the 70s, and I don't know if anybody have seen, they seem to be having a bit of resurgence, the Ladybird little readers, the little sort of naked hardbacks, and so I just gobbled those up and I reread and reread them all the time, and a lot of them was fairy stories. I think I can say that my favourite probably was The Princess and the Pea. And it's not one of the more well-known fairy stories, but basically the prince will find his true love if the princess can sleep on a pile of, I don't know, 100 or so mattresses, and one pea is underneath at the bottom and she can feel the pea, and that's how he'll know that she's the true princess, and I absolutely loved it. I also liked things like The Enormous Turnip, which again is really, really obscure, but where all the people in the farm have to go and pull the turnip out. But possibly the more popular ones would be things like Rapunzel and Snow White. So yeah, I liked all of them, and I wish I'd never given away my Ladybird classic books because they cost a fortune now to buy them back, but I would love them. The next question is, what is the most embarrassing classic you haven't read yet? Well, I feel like, as I started BookTube, that I read a lot, but I don't feel like I'm well read. There's a lot of classics that I haven't read yet, a lot of books that I want to read, so I just selected a few. And so, one of the ones that I still haven't read is 1984 by George Orwell, and I think probably feel like everybody and his dog has read this. I know there's loads of references in everyday culture and language to this book, but yeah, still haven't read it, so need to read that one. I haven't read any George Orwell at all, so I need to read that. Although I have read one of Thomas Hardy's more obscure books, which is Two on a Tower, which is one of his earliest books. I've never read Tess of the D'Urbervilles, so I need to read that one, and I've got this beautiful Penguin English Library edition of it too. A book that I bought recently, also in the Penguin English Library editions, is Midnight March by George Eliot. I've never read this either. Big book, but yeah, it's believed to be by a lot of people as, you know, the definitive novel, an absolute stonkingly good book, so I really should get around to it because I know it's the kind of thing I'm going to love. So I haven't read those. But then, if I've not read them and they're supposed to be great, I've got something fantastic to look forward to. The next question is the top 5 classics you want to read soon. So I have got Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell, and again, beautiful cover. It's in this Penguin English Library edition, and it's got that buttery, waxy cover to it, which don't seem to be coming on the later editions now. I've only ever read Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, and she's a writer who comes from Manchester, so I really should be reading this lady because she is, you know, from where I'm from. And yeah, and I would like to read more of hers and then actually go and visit I think in Manchester they've got either it's a house or a museum to Elizabeth Gaskell, so I would love to go there. The next one is Map and Lucia by E.F. Benson. This is in the Oxford, no it's not, it's Penguin Modern Classics White Spine editions. So I'd quite like to read this one. I believe that this is quite a fun read. So I'd quite like to read that one. The next one is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. I know a lot of people have been reading this on BookTube recently, quite a big book. I absolutely love the film of Gone with the Wind. So I really want to get to this book. I've had this on my shelves for ages actually, so it's quite an older edition I think compared to some of the ones that other people have been reading. The next one is Villette by Charlotte Bronte. It's 200 years since Charlotte Bronte's birth or death, can't remember this month, I think it's her birth. Jane Eyre is my favourite book of all time, so I really should read Villette because I've only ever read Jane Eyre by Charlotte, and she is, you know, if anything is as good as Jane Eyre, then I'm happy. The next one is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This is another book that I've heard is absolutely brilliant, and again I've not read it yet. It's a beautiful vintage red spine edition. So I need to read that one. So they're the next 5 classics that I plan to read. The next question is my favourite modern film or TV adaptation of a classic. For the TV adaptation, I'm probably going to be really boring and cliched and say the BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely. I absolutely loved it. I know there's no lake scene in the book, but a bit of Colin Firth in a wet shirt doesn't hurt anybody. Yeah, I loved that. It was just marvellous. It's just so well done. And the film version of a classic has got to be Rebecca, the Alfred Hitchcock version starring Laurence Olivier and Joan Fontaine. I have watched that so many times. I watched it before I read the book. The book didn't let me down. The ending in the film and the book are slightly different. But yeah, I absolutely loved that film version. If you've not seen it, I recommend it. It's great. And then the next one is the worst classic to movie adaptation. And this is sort of more of a modern classic really, but I would definitely say the film version of Memoirs of a Geisha, because I think the film completely missed the point. The film was just all about her relationship with the chairman, and the book's just so not that. That's just a small part of it. So yeah, I think they made a right mess of that. The next question is favourite modern book based on a classic, and again I'm sorry, a bit cliched, but it's got to be Bridget Jones's Diary. I actually, when I read this when it came out in the 90s, didn't know that it was inspired by Pride and Prejudice, but now when I was told it was yeah, of course it is. We've even got Darcy in it. Why couldn't I see that? But yeah, I absolutely love it. I was actually at been sent away on a conference from work, and I'd started reading this book and I couldn't put it down, so I skipped out of some of the sessions so I could read it, and I was sat in the foyer of the building where it's taking place, absolutely laughing my head off reading this book. So I was a bit naughty, but it was so worth it. It was a long time ago now. I can't get sacked. I'm not in that job anymore. The The next question is my favourite editions of classics that I like to collect. Ooh, there's so many. This is a recent copy of Jane Eyre that my daughter got me for Mother's Day, and it's a Penguin cloth-bound classic. This is the first one I've got in the Penguin cloth-bound classics, and it is absolutely stunning. It's even got the beautiful ribbon in it. Yeah, so I would definitely like more books in these editions because it's beautiful. And I've also got Jane Eyre this is another Penguin edition, but it's a leather-bound classic, and I don't know if you can see how gorgeous that is with the sparkly bronzy kind of inlays in there, and it is just absolutely beautiful. This is quite expensive, these editions, they're about £20, but oh god, they're so fabulous. If anybody ever wants to buy me a present or buy me anything, they can't go wrong by buying me a cloth-bound or a leather-bound Penguin classic. I won't mind a bit. The next ones is Persephone. I've got 3 Persephone classics, all in this beautiful grey. I've only got these 3, and the first one I've got is Good Evening, Mrs. Craven, The Wartime Stories of Molly Painter Downs. And obviously, if any of you have seen these before, they have just the most stunning end papers with a matching bookmark, so that's that one. And they're just beautifully made, absolutely beautifully made. The next one I've got is The Montana Stories by Catherine Mansfield, and again, that's what it's like inside. Absolutely beautiful. And the other one I've got is Mariana by Monica Dickens, and again, absolutely beautiful. So I'd like to collect more of these. They're quite pricey, but they're so beautifully produced, such good quality paper, and obviously fantastic books. I also love, which you might have seen already in a few books that I've shown you, is the Penguin English Library editions of books. So I've got quite a few of these, so I'll just show you a few more. I've got Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. That's a beautiful one, and it's got lovely like cups of teas on that, and teapots, and a beautiful green. I've got A Room with a View by Ian Forster, again absolutely beautiful, and they've all got these gorgeous spines. The Mill and the Floss by George Eliot. This is one of the ones in the buttery finish, so I've got that one. And again, this one by Charlotte Bronte, Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. This has got the lovely buttery waxy feel to it, the other ones haven't. And I do like this feeling, so yeah. So I've got a few of those. I absolutely love those editions of books. And I've also got, these are Virago Modern Classics, and these are a section of my Barbara Pym books. And these are absolutely beautiful. They've all got these absolutely stunning covers on them. And this is A Glass of Blessings by Barbara Pym. Less Than Angels, and the illustrations on the front covers are just so great. And these Barbara Pym books are just classic English village life kind of books. This is Jane and Prudence by Barbara Pym. Again, beautiful covers on them. And Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. So these are absolutely gorgeous editions, so they're Virago Modern Classics. And then obviously you've got to mention your vintage red spine editions. So I've just got a little selection of some of these. So I've got All Quiet on the Western Front, and that is, what's his name? Eric Maria Remarque. So it's got the poppy on the front of that. Pride and Prejudice, just beautiful with its lovely red spine. Beautiful sort of sweeping dress, well it's a cloak I think. Wilkie Collins, The Haunted Hotel. How cool is that cover? That is just absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I love that one. And again, another Wilkie Collins, The Woman in White, which is just again fantastic. And then another one I've got is Mervyn Peake's The Gormenghast Trilogy, which is brilliant. So yeah, so absolutely lovely editions of those. So I love all of those vintage red spine editions. And there's other books in beautiful editions that I'd like to collect too that I haven't got. So, you know, there's just, if there's a beautiful edition of a book that I love, yeah, I'm in. The final question is your favourite underhyped classic. So we're going to go back to Persephone here, and this is in the Persephone, I think these are like the popular classics. These are slightly cheaper, and this is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. Look at the beautiful cover on that. This is by Winifred Watson. I picked this book up on a whim and I read it in a day. I absolutely loved it. It's so completely charming. It's so heartwarming. It's all about Miss Pettigrew mistakenly goes to the wrong apartment for a job that she's been sent on as a temp, and ends up having the time of her life, and she changes the employer's life for the better and the employer changes her life for the better, all in the course of a day. And it's just wonderful. So I thoroughly recommend this one. It's a great read. Like I said, I couldn't put it down, did it in a day. So that's it for the Penguin, for the classics tag. I'm sure everybody's done this now, but if you haven't done it, it's great fun to do. I thoroughly recommend it. I'd love to hear what you all think of the books that I've mentioned and hear what you're reading for your classics as well. And I'll see you all soon. Bye!